In your talk yesterday, you were talking about bold science. What exactly does that mean?
It's a science which actually at the end of the day is going to make the difference. It's a science that's going to make people sit up. It's a science where ultimately we are stepping out of the box. I think that we run the risk of everybody getting into a wee bit of a rut with their science. The challenges we face are so great that we can't stay in our ruts anymore. We have to be bold, we have to climb out of the ruts so that we make the differences needed.
Do you have any idea how we might get out of that rut?
I think that it's about myself and other colleagues getting the message across in terms of what the serious issues are, because actually this is not saying that people don't know what the serious issues are. It's about saying that, or explaining that the issues are very, very big. And I've been very fortunate in the last year or so at having the space and time to look into some of the big issues and to meet with people at places like the United Nations and other international fora. And for me, the realization is that time is critical, and that getting that message across is, I think, partly my role to help people to come out of where they are at the moment and realize what science needs to be done.
Is it the case that scientists, politicians, or the general public need to be more bold? Is it all of those groups?
It's actually about everybody. The rate of change in terms of the concentrations of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere continues to increase. And as we gather more and more evidence, it's becoming increasingly apparent that the timescales in which we have to operate are shrinking. And again, for me, those sort of light bulb moment isn't that long ago, because it's taken me a wee while for me to get my head around the information. But ultimately it is about everybody, because it is the global people who are actually going to make the difference.
And do you have any ideas about how we will know when we are starting to be more bold? Will we see signs of it happening?
I think what will happen is that it will become an everyday conversation piece. That round the breakfast table, round the tea table, in the pubs, people will be speaking about it, not as something that is unusual or unrecognised, but something where people are genuinely aware and are the people therefore realising that they are choosing to make the changes that are required.
So does that tie into the idea of ocean literacy and ways in which we might be able to encourage that?
Absolutely, and I think that many people enjoy a day at the seaside, they enjoy a day walking along the cliffs, looking out. Some people are fortunate enough to actually go out in the water. But the criticality of marine in terms of life on land is still not something which is at the front of most people's minds. And this is what we as the science community have to do. But we have to do it in a way that helps people to make the decisions that will ultimately make the difference.
You talked about breaking down the barriers between social, natural and economic science. Is this at the level of the individual scientist, do you think, or is it more of an institutional problem that needs to be addressed?
Oh, I think it's at both, actually. I think that understandably people get very wrapped up in their own specific area. I mean, I've done it myself. This is not a criticism of people directly. It's just how we operate as people. Similarly, institutions tend to get slightly introspective, I think, over a period of time. What we all have to do is we have to, as a community, get together and realise that we can't make the changes that are necessary simply by looking at the natural science or the social science or the economic aspects at an individual level and at an institutional, organisational level. Because the questions that we are tackling, the issues that we are having to deal with, are such that it is this broader perspective that we need to take.
the picture for the future can seem very bleak in terms of the impacts climate change is likely to have on us. What can we feel positive about?
That we're speaking about it. That is the first stage. In other words, I genuinely believe we've taken the first step. There is increasing awareness. We've seen through 2019 the young people across many, many countries coming out and expressing their views. They are, of course, the adults of the future. And so their awareness, their preparedness to come out and speak about it, the fact that across the world there, I think, is a tide of change in respect of people's views, people's understandings, and that trajectory is what I think we can be very positive about. That no longer is climate change something that is happening somewhere else. No longer is it something that is somebody else's responsibility. I think people are genuinely beginning to realise that every single person has a role to play. And if I can just add, that often people ask me, what difference can I make as an individual? And I think that it is the fact that as an individual, you can be out there speaking to people, how you go about your day-to-day business. These are all things which, as one person becomes 2, becomes 4, becomes 8, as you influence the community that you have around them. And these people will then influence others, and these will influence others. And it's a wee bitty like, I don't know if you've ever watched Pocahontas, and the Pocahontas film where Grandma Willow dips her well, it wouldn't be a finger, but a branch into the water, and explains to Pocahontas and to John Smith about the ripples coming out. But you have to start that ripple process. It doesn't start itself. And so each of us can start our ripple process.
How important do you see Scotland's role being in leading change and bold science?
Scotland has the opportunity because of the likes of MASTS, because of the willingness of the marine community in Scotland, because of the cooperation and the collaboration that takes place, to yet again come out and be a leader, because someone has to be there. And why not Scotland?